So the advantages of pursuing residency in the United States for IMGs are already widely known. So what I'm going to focus on in this video are the disadvantages of the USMLE journey and just things that people don't really talk about. So if you like this type of content, please be sure to power up that like button, hit subscribe, and that notification bell so that you never miss another video like this. If you want to prepare the best application to avoid reapplying, or if you are applying to a very competitive specialty, then a big downside of this USMLE journey is that it is expensive. So if you just stick to the bare minimum expenses of paying for exams, the cost of actually applying to residency programs, and also what you need to make your application stand out, that can cost you up to $24,000. At a minimum, you can try to spend around a little under $10,000, but that is still pretty expensive. If you want a breakdown of everything about USMLE expenses for IMGs, then you can just watch this video right here. But let's go on to number 2. And that is that many times IMGs have to apply to less competitive specialties. So less competitive specialties for IMGs are internal medicine, neurology, pathology, and family medicine. So it is so much so that the less competitive specialties are synonymous with being IMG-friendly specialties. And for primary care specialties like internal medicine and family medicine, where there is a huge need for those specialties in the United States, IMGs definitely help to bridge the gap and fill any needs in those areas. And that brings me to point number 3, where IMGs are like a secondary consideration for selecting applicants. Of course, this isn't true for every single residency program, but most U.S. medical residencies are going to prioritize choosing a USMD or USDO student. So they are often first priority, while IMGs are like a secondary consideration, but they are still very valuable. And oftentimes in IMG-friendly residency programs, they are even prioritized. So again, this isn't a one-size-fits-all statement. Well, anything I'm about to say, it's not a blanket statement in every case. It's just in a majority of cases, the USMD or USDO students are first priority. And that brings me to my 4th point, and that is that it has been increasingly more difficult for IMGs that require a visa to do US residencies. So if you are an IMG that requires visas, for some reason there are less and less university programs or overall residency programs that offer visa sponsorships. Or there are different policies in place that make it even more difficult to gain and retain your visa status. So unfortunately, if you are a visa requiring IMG, that can make things a bit more difficult for you, but again, definitely not impossible. And a huge thing that isn't talked about enough is point number 5, which is oftentimes IMGs go to malignant programs. A malignant residency program is a program that has a strong history or work culture that is very, very negative to work in. It is insanely stressful, and even though that there are regulations in place of how much work hours you have per week, these malignant programs will do what they can to surpass that and ensure that you don't report them by saying things that would make you feel like your position here in the US is not that safe. For example, if you were a visa requiring IMG and you got a visa through that residency program that you got into, but they are malignant programs, a tactic that some malignant programs use is saying, hey, if you don't do X, Y, and Z like we say, then we're going to kick you out of the program. And if you're kicked out of the program, then you don't really have a stand-in to retain your visa sponsorship in the US. So all of your sacrifices and everything is just for naught at that point, and you feel like you don't have a choice. It's pretty more serious than I can say right now, but if you just do a quick Reddit search, you can find out more information about malignant programs and how IMGs often fall victim to these malignant programs. Another drawback is that as an IMG, you often leave your home, your family, your friends, and go to a completely new country or somewhere that you don't have that strong family base that you usually have. And you're now just in a completely new environment, and that can be stressful as well. And if you do have a family and you want to move them to the US once you get into residency, that can definitely be an expensive and long process, especially depending on your visa status. Another drawback as IMGs is that you more than likely will find yourself in a position of applying to programs or specialties that you think you're more likely to get into and not actually the specialty that you want to do. So for example, if you want to get into more competitive specialties like dermatology or neurosurgery or orthopedic surgery, that's something that you always wanted to do. Not saying it's impossible, because it definitely happens, but it is considerably harder and your chances are very minimal compared to applying to the more IMG-friendly specialties like we discussed previously, like internal medicine, pathology, neurology, and family medicine. So oftentimes you'll see that IMGs will apply to programs or specialties that they really want to get into, like dermatology, but at the same time, they also apply to internal medicine just to ensure that they increase their chances of matching. And if they don't get into the more competitive specialty that they wanted to, well, at least they matched. But again, I'm definitely not saying it's impossible. If you find that you are an IMG and you really want to pursue a specialty, the first thing that you need to do is to see how competitive that specialty is for the type of IMG that you are. I have videos that break down IMG friendliness based on states and based on whether or not you require visas and on your USMLE scores. There are so many different factors to look into. So first, decide, is it a competitive specialty or not? And what will I need to do to ensure that I maximize my chances of matching into that specialty? And you have to make a really structured plan on ensuring that you are the best applicant when you have to submit your applications. You just have to put the right foot forward and prepare yourself for what's to come. But if you want help with residency preparations and applications, then all you have to do is just click the link in the description of my Instagram page and send me a message. And I have some services available that can help you to really create a strong residency application package that will entice programs to want to interview and lead to you matching. And if you want to learn more about the USMLE process, then all you have to do is click this video right here.